Hi, greetings everyone. Excellencies, guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lucia Aprodu. It is my deep honor to welcome you to this online event and to be the moderator of this event. It's an event broadcast live, a regional dialogue happening simultaneously in Ukraine and my country, in the Republic of Moldova, and in multiple cities across the world, across Europe. Which puts an essential question about the quality of the air we breathe. The objective of this event is to present the results of the study on COVID-19 impact on air quality in Ukraine and the Republic of Moldova, conducted under the Rapid Response Satellite Earth Observation Solutions by experts hired by the European Space Agency, and discuss the opportunities to extend the use of Earth observation data in policymaking at the local and regional level in our countries and in the region at large. A few technical details before we start. This event will last for 90 minutes. It will consist of several statements and presentations and will culminate with a moderated discussion. To those following the event online on Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube, greetings to all of you. Please note that we will be taking questions and forwarding them to the panelists in the third part of the event. So if you have a question you would like to ask, please write it in the comments of the live streams on Zoom and on Zoom in the Q&A section. And add it to those, please add the name of those you're addressing the question to. In this way, we will see that it is answered, that it is properly presented and answered. And I wish all of us a good event. And now I have the honor to give the floor to Ms. Mirjana Spoljaric-Eger, UNDP Assistant Administrator and Director for the UNDP Regional Bureau for Europe and CIS, for her welcoming speech. Ms. Spoljaric-Eger, you have the floor. Your microphone, madam. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Lucia, Prime Minister, Vice Prime Minister, Excellencies and distinguished colleagues and partners, I'm very honored to be opening this important event today. When COVID-19 hit in early March last year, governments, development organizations in the private sector and the world's peoples were caught unprepared. No one imagined a crisis with such immeasurable dimensions and far-reaching implications for all of us. Today, almost 1 year later, we find ourselves in the middle of a human development emergency. The pandemic also tested the United Nations' ability to deliver effective and fast support to countries. The UN Secretary General soon assigned UNDP as the technical lead on the UN Development System's socio-economic response to COVID-19. So together with the UN family, governments and partners, we led and supported the development of a common UN framework, but also national impact assessments and response plans. In Moldova and Ukraine, socio-economic assessments were conducted to ultimately provide key stakeholders with a set of measures to overcome the added hardship on vulnerable groups and economies. However, assessing the impact was a difficult task for all of us. One of the key reasons was the lack of available socioeconomic information and data. This is why we need to continuously seek new ways of collecting facts and evidence to best possibly tackle the complexities of COVID-19 recovery. And in such challenging contexts as we are presently working in, strategic partnerships and trusted partners in particular are essential. We are very proud of our collaborative work with the European Space Agency, a partnership that has proven to be instrumental in assessing the COVID-19 impacts from space. The Earth observation data, alongside traditional sets of figures and statistics, allowed both policymakers and practitioners to gain new insights. For instance, it offered us a snapshot of the air quality in Moldova and Ukraine for the past 3 years, but also observed trends and patterns. And guided by UNDP and the ESA, the research team could spot major polluted areas based on particulate matter concentrations, which often exceeded WHO levels. for example, the daily limits in industrial cities such as Donetsk, Dnipro, and Mariupol, and others as well, were more often than not surpassed in the 3 years of observation, the daily limits. Earth observation data also challenged some of our assumptions related to air quality during the past, the current crisis. The research team detected a reduction of air pollution concentrations in Ukraine during lockdown, but there was no significant change noted related to the Republic of Moldova. The gained results also point to the value of building data collaboratives. Participants from different sectors, be it government, private companies, or development partners, can exchange their data for creating public value and work collectively to recover better and faster from any future shocks. Now, air quality and its variants are an essential factor in understanding the impact on the mobility and industrial activity on our societies and places in which we live and work. I'm very confident that the outcomes of the report presented today will stimulate further discussions on the broader use of Earth observation data within UNDP and in the region. The report should also pave the way towards incorporating relevant findings into local data collaboratives and national data ecosystems, not least to the benefit of recovering greener, as well as to the benefit of the most vulnerable and affected by this pandemic. And UNDP looks forward to continuing its collaboration with the European Space Agency, as well as with the governments of Ukraine and the Republic of Moldova. I thank you very much and look forward to an interesting discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Assistant Administrator Spoliari-Cheger, for your remarks. I now would like to give the floor to a representative of the largest space agency on Earth, Dr. Maurice Bourgeot, Head of the Science, Applications and Climate Department of the Directorate for Earth Observation Programs at the European Space Agency. Sir, you have the floor for your welcoming remarks.
Thank you. Prime Minister Chokori, Vice Prime Minister Roski, Director Spologic-Egger, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maurice Bourgeot. I'm head of the Science Application and Climate Department in the Directorate of Earth Observation Program at the European Space Agency, and I'm calling now from Rome, Italy. It's my particular pleasure, and I'm very honored to participate in this event. I do this on behalf of ESA Director of Earth Observation, Josef Aschbacher, who unfortunately cannot be here today, but sends his best wishes for this meeting. We are here to discuss findings on the COVID-19 impact on air quality in Ukraine and the Republic of Moldova. ESA has supported UNDP with a demonstration study of this impact. This was achieved by an activation of the so-called ESA-EO, EO for Earth Observation, ESA-EO Clinic, a rapid response mechanism we have developed for small-scale and exploratory use of satellite information in support of a wide range of projects and activities specific to international development. This EO clinic proved to be most suitable way to quickly respond to UNDP's short notice request in the wake of the pandemic outbreak. In concrete terms, a team composed by Everest Aerospatial Defensa in Spain and World from Space in the Czech Republic recently carried out work to characterize the air quality in Ukraine and Moldova and better understand the situation between before and during the pandemic. The work consisted mainly in collecting, extending and customizing data from the area of Moldova and Ukraine directly from our satellite Sentinel-5P, it's part of Copernicus, but as well as from the different services from the European Commission, the Copernicus Atmospheric Monitoring Service, and the Copernicus Climate Change Service. Special emphasis was put on the evolution of the air quality in urban areas and quantifying the additional effects of fire events that took place during the summer 2020. We'll hear about the detailed findings later on this program. However, let me just state a few observations from the ESA point of view. First of all, I would like to highlight the very successful cooperation between ESA and UNDP, the UN agency and governance. Space, by definition, is global, and international cooperation is an indispensable element of our activities. And our recent partnerships with institutional entities worldwide prove to be a central asset each and every day. The present study on the impact of COVID-19 on air quality can be seen as a customized support activity to UNDP and to Ukraine and Moldova, and as a part of ESA's wide effort to shed new light on societal and economic change taking place during the coronavirus pandemic. In this respect, ESA, from a very early stage of the pandemic, has cooperated with the European Commission, but also with other space agencies having satellites like NASA and JAXA, the Japanese space agency. This has led to the so-called Rapid Action Coronavirus Earth Observation, so-called RACE dashboard, that is available online and which provides more than 450 various indicators, not only about air quality and parameters, for answering the question, what impacts of COVID-19 can we see from space using EO data from ESA and European missions. This showcase the tangible values of Earth observation measurements, raise awareness, and also allow suitable targeted measures to be taken. Moreover, ESA is very pleased to see that the Copernicus data being also used by European countries that are not part of the European Union of ESA. Copernicus is the world leading Earth observation program, and it's European. Earth observation is also particularly relevant to the Black Sea and Danube region, for which ESA has dedicated activities in place in order to create and promote and increase the use of satellite-based information service that enhance and integrate within existing regional monitoring and assessment framework in cooperation, of course, with national and regional authorities. ESA continues advocating for mainstream of satellite EO in development operation to realize its full potential impact in order to stimulate growth of the digital economy. The EO clinic is a good example of the modalities with which ESA tries to bring benefits to the development sectors and its client states by connecting them to the expertise that exists in a well-developed downstream EO sectors in Europe, both at the industrial and at the academic domain. In doing so, ESA ties with the relevant trade organization, and I'd like to mention ERSC, the European Association of Remote Sensing Companies, for which we are working closely together. The so-called EO Clinic is a rapid response mechanism for small-scale and explorer use of satellite Earth observation information in the thematic area of international development. Nevertheless, in the longer term, ESA also welcomes increased collaboration with UNDP in the context of other activities, especially the ESA new dedicated program of Global Development Assistance, GDA, as part of the space in support of International Development Assistance Initiative. Through these activities, ESA will remain a reliable partner to connect the dots between end users, sector specialist practitioners, government officials, development sectors, and space application industry in order to facilitate the operationalization and uptake of Earth observation data and service. To conclude, let me really thankful to have this opportunity to sketch out the ESA perspective of this event. The COVID-19 related studies regarding Ukraine and Moldova are part of ESA's larger scale effort to bring the benefit of space-based Earth observation to citizens in Europe and worldwide. With that, I wish you a very productive and successful event. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bourgeot, for your remarks, for your encouragement, and for conveying to us the openness of ESA to work with our region. I certainly hope that our countries will take you up on that offer. Today's meeting will look at data on air pollution in Moldova and Ukraine, obtained via satellite, as this was described at the beginning. And we will see, as we will see in a few minutes in the presentation of the authors of the study, the engagement of national authorities for such available data is essential should the data be considered in national decision-making. We are therefore very encouraged by the level of participation of representatives of national governments at today's meeting. It is my honor and great pleasure to greet His Excellency Aurel Ciocoi, Prime Minister AI of the Republic of Moldova, and give him the floor for his keynote address. Domnule prim-ministru, bună ziua, aveți cuvântul. Prime Minister, you have the floor.
Bună ziua. Well, in nowadays period, during this pandemic situation, we have to say the screen is yours. Well, but thank you. Well, distinguished guests and partners, honorable representatives of the government of Ukraine, United Nations Development Programme, and European Space Agency, our dear friends, dear colleagues, I'm honored to open this important regional event in which we are going to present and to discuss the key findings of the report of the impact of COVID-19 on air quality in the Republic of Moldova and in Ukraine. I am particularly pleased to have with me the Regional Director of UNDP for the RBEC region, the General Director of the European Space Agency, representatives of the government, civil society and private sector from both Ukraine and Moldova. As you know, the COVID-19 crisis has had a profound impact on our societies. The health crisis rapidly transcended the boundaries of the health sector, causing major social, economic and environmental disruptions, which led to the serious crisis that the Moldovan society and the global community currently face. This major event continues to affect the way we live, work, commute, causing medium and long-term consequences. The response to this crisis came in stages. In the first stage, we focused on tackling the immediate public health challenges, mainly safeguarding people's lives and well-being. Now we are in the second stage, meaning that we are working to address the socio-economic shocks and help the recovery efforts. Thereupon comes the third stage, demanding us to direct our attention to building capacities and adapting our systems to the crises of the future, such as climate change, economic shocks, social exclusion, and growing inequalities. All these will require comprehensive analysis of the situation, looking into new types of data and evidences, as well as bringing together partners and resources across different sectors. My dear friends, I believe that the first step has already been taken once the collaboration between UNDP, our government, and the European Space Agency was established. This partnership came at a moment when we required new evidence to support policy making and develop solutions and options for response and recovery. I'm certain that this collaboration provided valuable insights towards the development and consultations of the COVID-19 impact assessment done by the United Nations agencies in partnership with the State Chancellery of the Republic of Moldova. The impact of COVID-19 as seen from space, if I may use this quotation, is a relatively new area for decision makers in my country. This time, due to the report on impact of COVID-19 on air pollution in Moldova and Ukraine, we can benefit indeed from robust data and intelligence on what is happening on the ground and how the crisis is affecting our environment. We will very much like to further explore some other thematic areas and sectors, to include climate change, for example, water, food and energy security in the areas, in order to further improve policymaking and implementation of the sector strategies, support evaluation of the efforts of the country and its people towards the implementation of the 2030 Agenda and SDGs. While the report sheds light on the quality of air and takes into consideration very interesting historical data sets, a premiere for Moldova and Ukraine, by the way, we believe it opens up a new chapter of collaboration with the development partners, including the European Space Agency, and equally the local academia and private sector. The infinite nature of Earth observation data, the information and intelligence to be derived, as well as their richness, can and should be further explored by our governments. We are looking forward and welcoming once again the partnership between our country and United Nations Development Programme in Moldova in these challenging times. We also welcome the strategic partnership with the European Space Agency that is evolving, since this collaboration is beneficial to both our government and the people living in Moldova, and we definitely need this type of support in the future. Allow me to thank you very much, and I'm looking forward for very fruitful discussion later on. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Indeed, furthering the cooperation with the international development agencies, with UNDP, with ESSA, and with many other organizations could strengthen the capacity of governments to make informed decisions on such important issues that affect human health and well-being, especially now, after we've all been through the lesson given to all of us by the pandemic. Surely Ukraine is also very interested in accessing such data as well, considering the varying profiles of the regions in the country and the stance of air pollution in the list of hindrances to the health of many Ukrainians. I'd like to give the floor now to His Excellency Deputy Prime Minister Oleg Uruski for his remarks. Deputy Prime Minister, please.
Шановний пане прем'єр-міністр, шановні пані і панове, перш за все хотів би подякувати за можливість долучитися до такого важливого заходу, який сьогодні проходить. І всі ми знаємо, що однією з глобальних проблем 21-го століття є забруднення повітря, рівень якого зростає з кожним днем, викликаючи непоправні наслідки. Ця проблема є нагальною для України, оскільки за даними Всесвітньої організації охорони здоров'я, за співвідношенням смертності до кількості населення, наша держава – одна з країн з найбільш забрудненим повітрям зі 160 досліджених. Сталий розвиток країни передбачає регулювання усіх сфер діяльності. Таким чином, аби економічний розвиток сприяв соціальному благополуччю населення, але при цьому не завдавалася шкода довкіллю. У таких масштабах, які б створили загрозу існуванню майбутніх поколінь та обмежували їх доступ до природних ресурсів. Атмосферне ж повітря є одним з тих компонентів довкілля, від стану якого залежить стан здоров'я людини. А в теперішній час у спалах коронавірусної інфекції COVID-19 забруднення повітря може ускладнювати перебіг захворювань. Всі ми протягом минулого року багато чули про те, що карантинний режим у зв'язку з COVID-19 призвів до тимчасового зменшення викидів і забруднення навколишнього середовища. Про це, зокрема, заявляв генеральний секретар Організації Об'єднаних Націй. І це, до речі, було відзначено і в масштабах нашої країни. В світлі цього є дуже важливим, цікавим та корисним спільний проєкт про ООН в Україні та в Молдові у партнерстві з Європейським космічним агентством, який мав на меті використання даних спостереження за землею для аналізу якості повітря та викидів протягом періоду COVID-19, якому присвячений наш сьогоднішній захід. Однією з основних засад внутрішньої та зовнішньої політики України є збереження навколишнього середовища та його складових, що є життєво необхідним для існування людини, її нинішнього і прийдешніх поколінь. У цьому контексті Україна визнає забезпечення саме екологічної безпеки одним із важливих напрямів національної безпеки країни в цілому. Протягом багатьох років наша держава займається питаннями дослідження змін стану довкілля, зокрема із використанням космічних даних, є активним учасником міжнародної ініціативи «Копернікус», володіє розгалуженою системою приймаючих станцій космічних даних. Тому Україна вітає і всіляко підтримує впровадження проєктів ПРООН, зосереджених на використаннях даних спостереження Землі для підвищення якості розуміння, моделювання та прогнозування природних ресурсів і процесів. Для забезпечення вище зазначених завдань надзвичайно важливо.
As a result of the aforementioned, it is incredibly important to collect and provide the data collected from space to the public. Therefore, I'd like to express the gratitude to Mr. Josef Aschbacher and the European Space Agency for signing in February 2019 an agreement about using the space component of Copernicus program between European Space Agency and a Ukrainian Space Agency. As a result, Ukraine has a successful center for collecting and disseminating information and the local merit website of Copernicus program. I'd like to assure you that Ukraine will further participate in Copernicus program, will contribute to the development of its relationship with the European Space Agency, and will facilitate implementation of regional UNDP projects. Thank you once more for inviting me to be a part of this event. Wish you all a very fruitful event. Thank you, Prime Minister.
And I apologize for my Ukrainian, which is only incipient. Indeed, as you noted, Ukraine would benefit greatly from data on air pollution and on other aspects of environment, as this is a significant topic in your national policy and in your national security agenda. Hopefully, this would signal a start of a good cooperation with the European Space Agency. This is a thing that the entire region needs greatly. Thank you. Let us now see what the main findings and conclusions of the study on the impact of COVID-19 on air quality in the two countries, in Moldova and Ukraine, and in the region at large are. The study was undertaken by two companies, Everest Aerospace, which is represented today by Madam Patricia Rodriguez da Pena. Hi, Patricia. And and the other company is World from Space, represented by Roman Bohovic. Hi, Roman. I now would like to give the floor to Patricia Rodriguez da Pena, and she will be followed by her colleagues shortly after a few slides. Patricia Rodriguez da Pena is Space Software Systems Director at Everest Aerospace, the lead in this consortium for the study. And Roman Bohovic is Chief Technical Officer at World from Space. Patricia, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucia, Prime Ministers, Excellencies, and all participants. First of all, thank you very much for allowing us to participate in this event and present you the results of this small study intended, as already mentioned, to demonstrate how Earth observation can support decision-making, especially on this COVID crisis we are all suffering. And so to support, together with many other data, both countries in this particular case, Ukraine and Moldova, are collecting together with UNDP to try to recover from current situation. It is a study, as already mentioned, paid, supported, contracted by the European Space Agency under a frame contract called EOClinic, which provide these small rapid response studies on many other different aspects, not only air quality, but many other aspects exploiting the Earth observation data available from the Sentinel data and all these Copernicus databases. I don't know if we could see the presentation. Yes, so if you could go one slide further. the presentation, please, next one. The presentation, I will only present the objectives and then I will come back at the conclusions, and Roman from World from Space will present the main technical results. Next one, please. So the objectives, as already mentioned, next one, please, are these: to analyze, collect many different particles to evaluate the air quality in cities and industrial areas in Ukraine and Moldova, to analyze the effects of the COVID pandemic. We were trying to analyze, of course, in the past, data from 2015 to 2020, but we wanted as well to evaluate post-COVID. We are not yet there, unfortunately. So the information is, yes, as well on 2020, after the main March-April big crisis, but unfortunately we could not see the recovery yet. So the idea is that by having probably good air quality, this unfortunately may mean a reduction of economical activity. So what we have done is to analyze in particular 5 different pollutants, NO2, SO2, CO, and the 2 different ozone and the 2 different particle matters. We have identified these COVID-related aspects. So we were focusing on pre-COVID, post-COVID activities on different regions and the evolution through the different years. We are suggesting the use of different tools to present. We will show you that there is a web page and different stories, so how to show this kind of dashboards and show this information to you. Next one, please. So the input data we have collected and analyzed was coming from the Sentinel-5P data, the Copernicus CAMS service already providing information on some of the particles in particular as well that we were missing from the Sentinel-5P. We tried to use in situ measurements, so other local measurements, not satellite-based. Unfortunately, not much could be used, based on many different reasons, but not much is available, and not really coinciding with what we wanted to analyze. And we used as well existing guidance for air quality limits from the World Health Organization. So to compare whether we were over or under these healthy top limits or the intervals. As already mentioned, all these 6 different pollutants were observed. And now I give the floor to Roman to present all the diagrams, pictures, and all the main results we were analyzing in this study. Please, Roman.
Thank you, Patricia. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Roman Bohovic, and I would like to show you the results of the study. To start, I would like to start with the main findings that we find during the activity, and I would like to have the presentation there. So the key findings that we undertake during the study for Ukraine is that the current air quality situation is diverse in Ukraine, and it reflects distribution of densely populated as well as industrial areas, including the major industrial polluters. The lowest average concentrations can be spotted over the sparsely populated areas. So this is somehow very understandable result. And what's more, the observable reduction of air pollution concentration were shown during the COVID era from Sentinel-5P and also from the CAMS, the Copernicus atmosphere monitoring service as well. The main our key finding for the Moldova is that the overall situation of air pollution in Moldova is very favorable, specifically when compared to the other European countries. The remark is that the other European countries are not good benchmark in the air pollution then. The higher concentration of pollutants are observable only in the capital city and near a large power plant. Due to these general low values, the air pollution dynamics during the COVID era didn't show any significant change, at least not during the first wave of the COVID-19 era, and this couldn't be easily related to the lockdown. Next slide, please. So the study had the main three parts. So first was to evaluate the outputs of the Sentinel-5P or capabilities for monitoring of these countries in general. We use all the time series through the Sentinel-5P existence. So it was in this case 2 years, or mainly 2 years. And the best or the most promising results are with monitoring nitrogen dioxide from the satellite, and you see these overall like average values for the Ukraine, that the most of the parts of the countries have the lower values, but there are very distinct hotspots of the large municipalities and large industrial areas that all have higher values of this nitrogen dioxide. For the Moldova, in general the results are somehow same, that the main the main hotspot is the capital city. However, the overall values are lower than in Ukraine. Next slide, please. The next polluter is carbon monoxide. Here you see the result for both countries and for two different sources. The one is Sentinel-5P, the second is the model data from the CAMS. And you can see that the most of the variation is natural, but the hotspots, or again the high values, could be linked to the human activity. This differs a little bit from the model data, that the distinct cities form very distinct hotspots. It's not so obvious or not so clear from the Sentinel-5P data, but even these there are other natural sources that could be linked to that. At this place, maybe I will explain that there is a little or important difference between these data sources. For Sentinel or satellite measurements, we see the values for the all atmospheric column. For the carbon monoxide, we used only the surface values. So the difference has like physical nature, and it's somehow expected. Next slide. For the particular matter, we could use only CAMS data, and on the left you see the general values for the whole region, following the same pattern. The best values are in the mountainous regions and the sparsely populated places, and again the industrial areas have higher values of this polluter. What's more, we could compare this with the WHO guideline values, and on the map in the right you see how many times during the 3-year time span these annual levels were reached, and this you see that most of the area was exceeding the annual limit at least once for these 3 years, but in many places even all 3 years were overcoming this limit. Next. The similar task we did for the particular, the bigger particles. Again, here we use the WHO annual guidelines. These were exceeded mostly in just in 11 cities, so not the whole region were affected. And for this, we also use the 24-hour mean value proposed by the WHO. And on the map, you see that this one was exceeded several times on the most of the places, but there are a few hotspots that the exceeded values been there even more than 100 or 200 times during this time. Next. And finally, so these were the general values for the whole time span, 2 or 3 years. When we considered or we tried to find the COVID era lockdown impacts on these polluters, we considered the data from the 2018, 2019, and the last year, the first wave or first period of COVID era, and we did some statistical exercise among the data, and we could find that there are some differences that could be linked to these lockdown eras. However, this needs to be taken with the caution because each year is different, and the last year in general was more favorable with the air pollution in whole Europe, not only because of the in this particular part of the Europe and not just this part of the year. Next. Here we see same comparison from the nitrogen dioxide 2019 and 2020, because the Sentinel-5P data are not available from the 2018 yet, and there are like differences that are lower than one might expect. And also on the green image or green map, you see that these are impacts of the fires that also affect. So it means that the different conditions during the different years also are affecting what's happening with the air pollution naturally, not only human introduced pollution is observable. Next. This is very specific for the carbon monoxide because when you see the yellow spots on 2019 and 2020, these spots are linked to the fires, wildfires that affected the pollution by this pollutant quite well or quite much. So main difference among this among the carbon monoxide between these 2 years is linked just to natural or not sure what is natural, but wildfires, not the lockdown or human activities. And also you see that the direction of the wind send this carbon monoxide higher values towards the Kyiv. So you can see the plume going through the Ukraine during this era. So in general, we could see there is a difference, but very probably it's not caused by the lockdown or any human introduced measures. Next one, please. For the particular matter, we could use only model data or from the CAMS, and in this data we compared again 3 years always the same period of the year. Then there you can see the significant reduction of the pollution by this. But what needs to be also said that there have been some kind of reduction also between 2018 and 2019. But not so obvious and not so high than in 2020. And these hotspots are quite well visible. Next one. In the last or third part of the study, we also evaluate or try to evaluate or link the impact of industrial production on industrial manufacturers on the air quality. And here there is on the map or general map of the nitrogen dioxide, and the circles indicate the highest polluters, like individual polluters, individual companies or factories in Ukraine. And you see that some of them very well correlate with the hotspots that are observable from the space, from the Sentinel-5P satellite. So this is like the easy visualization. And here, this is the same with the population density. Again, this is just to visualize that the population density is quite well correlated, even visually, with the higher values of the nitrogen dioxide. And it's even observable from the data of Copernicus. So we again, or we've of course produced a lot of other maps, but these were the most interesting ones. And we set some outputs and suggestions. So next one, please. The main output of this study is a web-based platform that where we made available the data that we process for Ukraine and Moldova, and it's publicly available for your use or for public use, so you can have a look on this kind of data that are produced by the Copernicus program, and it's just visualization of the outputs that we did. You can see the monthly averages. You can compare time series, different districts. You can make the comparison between different places or different pollutants. You can zoom in and out, so you can play with the data and look for something that you are interested in. This web application is one part, and then the second are web stories. We did 4 different stories about urban pools in Kyiv and Chernivtsi, and urban pools in Chisinau and Balti. So for both countries, where you can find different maps, different graphs, and also some information where these data are given in some context. The same or the other stories are about industrial polluters from space, this in Ukraine, and air pollution in Moldova from space in general. So these are like some public stories to promote these data sets to the general public. Then the final recommendation, this was just very small and short study, as was already mentioned. We did or we have the chance to look only on the first part of the lockdown, so we still don't see the end. So this would be very useful to go further. What we somehow recommend that the operational monitoring dashboard or application could be done and extended for air pollution, but also for some other parts. The in-situ measurement network would be very beneficial for evaluating the relevance of the data, because this always needs to be done. There are some civil-led air monitoring initiatives in Ukraine specifically that are promising and could add this data. Some operational emergency warning system, some are built in Europe, but you can also build one in your countries again. And I will pass my my word to Patricia for the final slide of the presentation.
If you go, thank you, Roman. If you could go to the one just before, please. Just to mention and insist on the fact that this data, air quality data, and the study we did is just a limited amount of data that we can use from Earth observation. Maybe just the slide before, please. Yes. So as we are just trying to mention here, there is already a lot of data in the Copernicus different services, and it's disaster monitoring and atmospheric monitoring, the sea, land. So there is a lot of potential use of Earth observation data for many different aspects. And as already mentioned earlier, yes, about the grains and all the soil status and so many different aspects that could be could benefit from the use of Earth observation. So this is the last point, that we can not only exploit a bit more the air quality data we are analyzing in this study, but a lot of more data can be used and could be beneficial for the policy-making authorities. Next, please. And just a slide, last one, on behalf of ESA, and again, as already mentioned before, all this Earth observation data is really international cooperation. Cooperating with the UN and cooperating with other organizations, it's really data that it can be used for many other applications, not only air quality monitoring. Space data is global, so this cooperation is needed. The international use in Europe, outside Europe, is 100% possible, I understand, and needed. And of course, the ultimate goal of ESA is really to really build and support these local capacities to really stimulate the use of this digital economy, because so far this is digital data we are using, so for the benefit of all of us. So this is the end of our presentation, and thank you very much again for allowing us to work in this project and to provide to you this information.
Thank you so much, Patricia Rodriguez-Zapena, Roman Bojovic, for your presentation and for your fantastic work on this report. This was very insightful. The report and its core findings highlight that incorporating new types of evidence into our decision-making processes at various levels could actually significantly improve the quality of those decisions and the outcomes of those decisions for regular people. If I can draw some conclusions myself, again, if I get them wrong, correct me. The data provided could be a source of very interesting insights. For example, and I judge about Moldova, which is my country, is the smaller of the two countries. While Moldova does not seem to be very polluted per se, which could be indicative of little industrial activity, excessive pollution in wintertime points out to the fact that we have heating perhaps thought wrong or faulty. And the negligible change in pollution levels during the pandemic again shows that perhaps we use significantly more than would be the average on that, or that would be advised in a lockdown, our personal vehicles. So perhaps the stop of population was not properly managed during that period. Again, those conclusions belong to me and they are not attributed to anyone. It's just my reading into some of those pictures. And perhaps you will see that we have a comment from the broadcast on YouTube related to some of the maps presented in the presentation. Some of our viewers were interested in more detailed analysis or source of the data used. As I said, moreover, additional data can deepen our understanding of certain processes, which is essential in everyday policy making and in streamlining the achievement of sustainable development goals of SDGs in both our countries and in the region at large. And I hope that those who followed the presentation selected the addresses for the dashboard and for the stories from space, from the website, which is a very beautifully done visualization of air quality data you could play with if you want to. I think those links would be available together with the report in various publications produced by UNDP, both in Moldova, Ukraine, and in Europe and the CIS. In this context, I would like to invite our panelists for the third part of this event to briefly speak from their experience and share their insights on the findings of the report, and equally on the opportunities to expand the partnership with ESA and the governments of Moldova, Ukraine, and beyond. Before we proceed, this is a reminder that for the audience following this meeting online, that this is a moderated discussion. It will last 30 minutes and it's interactive. You can write your question to one of the speakers via Zoom Q&A or in the chat section or in the comment section on the live streams on Facebook and YouTube. I will voice them at the end of the discussion with the help of our moderators. And since we have quite little time, I kindly encourage our panelists to be as brief as possible. I know I take up a lot of the time, sorry about that. I will allot each speaker a generous 3 minutes, if I hope this is a fair allocation of time. And we can partake in sharing the remaining time, should there be any, after we answer some questions from the audience. So now I would like to give the floor. It's my great pleasure to Ms. Dima Al-Khatib, who is the UNDP resident representative from Moldova, for her remarks on the study and the experience in participating in this interesting project.
Thank you very much, Lucia. And allow me first to welcome the Excellencies, Mr. Chokoi and Mr. Uruski, our regional director, Mariana, Mr. Bourgeot, the distinguished participants and guests. We are very pleased in UNDP Moldova to host this important event and this fascinating study, even though our ESA colleagues call it small, but I think it's very, very impactful. And this ongoing collaborative work with the European Space Agency is an important step forward in supporting the government of the Republic of Moldova with evidence-based policymaking and better informed recovery from the COVID-19. Our collaboration has started with ESA back in 2018 with several pilots on urban mobility, population density and distribution, impact of COVID-19 on agriculture, mostly the drought impact, and now the topic of air pollution. And these pilots really used a combination, as was mentioned, of evidence coming from the Earth observation data, but also from the ground. And we're supported by ESA through the Earth Observation Clinic. And this excellent, collaboration has provided us with depth of insights using the rich Earth observation data sets and complementing our, other data sources, whether on mobility and electricity, which results from also collaboration with a lot of private sector entities and also the government of Moldova. During this pandemic crisis, which we are still, navigating through, this collaboration has also enabled us to extend much needed support, an emerging one, to the Office of the Prime Minister through the provision of specific services that we used in the COVID crisis, monitoring and, of the compliance measure and the sources of deviation. And this was very important at the time for the government to be able to, to detect, how they can address these different gaps. These can be also further developed, as we have seen. The sky is the limit of using these data, really. I mean, it's amazing. The report that we have discussed today is also a demonstration of how historical Earth observation data is useful for deriving insights and developing additional intelligence on the impact of COVID on human development, as seen from the space, as also underpinned by our Prime Minister at interim. And it also eventually proposes and develops policy options for stronger and greener recovery from COVID-19. For us at UNDP, it's very important to also look at the greener recovery. And in this specific area of air pollution, there is evidence need to intensify the efforts on the ground in terms of data generation, use, and dissemination. With this, joint UNDP and SIF4 effort, we aim to deepen the collaboration and explore many new areas and spaces that can be addressed. Moldova is confronted with development challenges that range from different aspects, even pre-COVID era, and such development challenges do cover important areas such as energy dependence, supply, water scarcity, depopulation, out-migration, urban and environmental challenges, including air pollution, the unsustainable consumption, as well as many other ones that are related to our SDGs and that can help us to really measure and see how we are progressing on the development fronts. So, again, the sky is the limit in terms of expanding our collaboration, and we are expressing here our utmost readiness and interest to further that support that was also mentioned by our Prime Minister at interim. We are more than ready to sit and explore how we can, with additional intelligence and policy support, capitalize on this existing collaboration and expand it, including as part of the upcoming Global Development Assistance Program that was mentioned by Mr. Bourgeot, but also continuing the collaboration with the Earth Observation Clinic and other initiatives. I want to also take this opportunity to really thank the beehive behind this whole work that has been done today. The consortium of Everest, and the Word from Space, as well as our teams who are based here in Moldova, but also in UNDP Ukraine, and the support of our regional office, without whom this platform today and this discussion couldn't have happened. Thank you very much, Lucia, for your good moderation, and over back to you.
Thank you very much for your remarks, and for conveying the openness of UNDP Moldova to continue working with our government and managing the many challenges that lie in our development. I'd like to give the floor now to Ms. Dafina Gercheva, who is UNDP resident representative to Ukraine, but is not a stranger to Moldova as far as I know. Ms. Gercheva, please. I see, okay, we have the connection. Hi.
Thank you very much, Lucia. Excellencies, distinguished panelists, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really pleased and I'm really honored to be able to join you today. And I would like to extend on behalf of UNDP Ukraine our warm welcome to keynote speakers, to the presenters, and also to the participants in today's event. I would also like to take this opportunity and extend our appreciation and sincere thanks to the experts and analysts who have translated gigabytes of data into a meaningful and truly insightful report, which contains solid evidence that will inform the development of a national air pollution policy, strategy, and action plan. I would also like to express our deep appreciation and gratitude to the European Space Agency for the strategic partnership and also for the support provided to UNDP in Moldova and in Ukraine. Ladies and gentlemen, Ukraine is committed to accelerating the twin digital and green transformation of the economy, and data, public and private, big and thick, will play an instrumental role in achieving this ambitious intent. As we know, development landscape is rapidly changing, posing complex and interrelated challenges to both developed and developing countries, which generate negative feedback loops and call for a paradigm shift. The need for breaking down the sectoral silos and applying integrated and multifaceted solutions executed with a wider range of strategic partners has never been higher. Digital and data tools are central to evidence-based policymaking and response, monitoring, horizon scanning, and predictive analysis for simulation and measuring outcomes, including related to air pollution and COVID pandemic. The Earth observation data provide a unique perspective, and when combined with public and private data, can shed a light on the previously unknown sustainability gaps and pathways and can inform policymaking. Our world is a complex system made up of many interconnected elements in constant flux that interact and adapt, thus making outcomes impossible to predict. Climate change, digital divide, inequalities, pandemics, these are dynamic, interconnected enigmas. The way we address one affects outcomes in others. They require evidence-based systemic solutions. Decision-making in public policy has to be on the basis of building public consensus. Here's where data can help inform that political consensus by putting data out there to the general public and helping to nurture the debate out there. So it is not informing the policymaker, the decision maker, it is informing the public. When the public sees the data, when they see who, for example, is benefiting from energy subsidies, or they see that air pollution leads to increased morbidity and mortality, they can then start asking, what is the government doing to protect the people and the planet? And then the policymaker really has to take the decision, whereas if left to his or her own devices, she may not. In this day and age, the role of data, the role that data play is to inform the general public, and that the general public can then hold politicians accountable. The data ecosystem is getting more and more complex, with so many actors involved in producing this data. However, the architecture around that and the ability to analyze and contextualize data is still very weak. Information is certainly never the hero, but it does play a supporting role in how leaders allocate scarce resources and accelerate development in their communities, and certainly citizens are part of that story as well. Ladies and gentlemen, by way of concluding, I also would like to extend my personal thanks to the teams who have been involved in this exciting exercise, and would like to thank Mirjana and her team for the great and very instrumental support provided to all of us, to us here in Ukraine and our colleagues in Moldova. I would also like to encourage all the participants to meaningfully engage in a topical discussion around the use of Earth observation data for measuring the progress towards the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, and also amplifying the impact of local citizen-led air sensor networks such as Safe EcoBot, EcoCity, and many more. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gercheva, for your input and remarks. Indeed, our countries could benefit greatly from such projects of cooperation, and I'm convinced that the national governments are very happy that the UNDP offices in the two countries launched this dialogue and data collection activity together with ESA, the largest space agency in the world. I think I repeated this two or three times during this, this event. Thank you. I would like to invite Mr. Oleg Kara, who is the General Director of the National Bureau of Statistics, to join us. Hi, bună ziua, domnule Kara. Hi, Mr. Kara. The National Bureau of Statistics in Moldova is aspiring to integrate EO, Earth observation data, and as well as other types of data, big data, in its work that support SDGs monitoring, including so that you can improve the quality of your work. I'd like to ask, what are the main challenges in this endeavor, beside the ones related to infrastructure, to the setup of data collection that you have? And perhaps this study has shown, has provided you with ways that you can expand the scope of data you collect. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Sumesh. Excellencies, dear partners and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation to participate in this important event and to have the opportunity to answer your question. Actually, one of the important challenges we are facing is to have an integrated approach in production and disseminating economic, social, and environmental data to support SDG monitoring and overall sustainable development of the country. Currently, the National Bureau of Statistics, with the informational support from the national partners and also with the support of international partners, works on the production of economic environmental accounts on air emissions in line with international standards, which is an important source of the information on greenhouse gas emissions and pollutants that are disaggregated by type of economic activity along with socio-economic indicators. So the NBS currently conducted the experimental calculations for the years 2014-16, and now we are continuing this work to provide the users with this important data. On the other hand, the National Bureau of Statistics has plans to work on big data, and nowadays the Bureau is concentrated on building a geodatabase for statistical use, composed of Earth observation data, administrative data, and other different sources. As a major challenge in this aspect we are facing is related to getting access to relevant individual data from administrative registers for the compilation of current statistics, SDG indicators, and for conducted surveys and the census. And nowadays we can say also the important challenge is due to the constraints derived from the COVID-19 pandemic that limit our activities in the field. For sure, such important studies are important for us also in order to get the additional information regarding the methods to be used, and also the information that allow us to let's say to conduct new surveys and to get additional data needed for the users. And finally, I would like, taking this opportunity, to thank UNDP that together with other development partners help National Bureau of Statistics to overcome these and many other challenges we are facing in developing SDG indicators, as well as in general in production and disseminating national official statistics to support informed-based decisions. Thank you very much.
Mulțumim. Thank you, Mr. Cara, for your remarks and comment. I'd like now to ask, I think, another colleague from Moldova, Ms. Stella Drucioc, from the National Chemistry Institute of Moldova, who's an expert in the field of air pollution. Ms. Drucioc, hi, welcome. I'd like to ask you to share with us from your experience if the findings of this joint UNDP-ESA study report resonate with your previous work on air pollution, and if so, to what extent, and you know, how you can corroborate data collected under this study with what you've come up to the conclusions that you came to in your work. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Distinguished audience, state officials, development partners, and international experts. On behalf of my colleagues of the Institute of Chemistry, Laboratory of Environmental Monitoring, I would like to congratulate you for such a great study. And I am very pleased with the presented report and statement of air quality in the Republic of Moldova, despite the desire for a better and cleaner air. This study is very precious for us, brings real data and via satellites and air quality numerical simulation and in situ data. We can find the past air quality situation using the provided online platform. I refer to the page 65 of this study. This is very useful for evaluation relation between citizen health and city air quality, because this data can provide the trend of air quality to us. After reading this study, I did a very quick examination of data of atmospheric measurements done by the State Hydrological Service in Moldova and Environmental Agency, published on the website, and I'm very glad to. I was very glad to see that the similar accountants presented with similar data presented in your study. In Moldova, we have the same situation of air quality in big cities as for year 2019 and pandemic year, especially in big cities. Daily, we are our specialized institutions are doing the monitoring of nitrogen dioxide, nitrogen monoxide, formic aldehyde, and other pollutants. But these three pollutants are especially generated mostly by transport sector, and the lockdown did not decrease much the public nor private transportation. So we need to do this inventory of air quality and to carry out the adequate measures in order to decrease the emissions. In spite of different methods used by European Space Agency and our institutions, we have the same data, and this is very important for cross-checking and for complementations. Myself and my colleagues are involved in inventory for the air convention using the EMAP methodology, and unfortunately we cannot do this comparison between for pandemic and before pandemic, because our last report is for year 2019, but we will do this in the coming year. So the presented report by distinguished experts is very important for a real statement of air quality, delivering near real data, and we will use this for improving our inventory for reporting under the Air Convention, Air Convention. And because we have lack of input data and we need to improve our inventory, switching from level tiers 1 to 3 and using different tools for cross-checking. And I would like to mention that with support of our Ministry of Agriculture, Regional Development and Environment, we advance for the grid inventory. And this will allow us to identify the source to prevent some disasters and impact on health and environment. So in this way, we will apply to use the data provided by your study. And we are very grateful for our development partner, and we are open for further cooperation. And finally, I would like to propose to continue this project, to train our local experts how to use this data and how to improve our inventories and for reporting to the signed conventions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Druchok, and I hope your request, and I think your request will be met with a follow-up at the end of this event and further on. Environmental issues are a matter of national security in Ukraine, as they are in my country as well. And I'd like to pass now the floor to Mr. Mykola Dobish, who is an advisor to the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine. Mr. Dobish, the Security Council seeks to build a comprehensive support system in Ukraine that can help produce data-driven decisions. I'd like to ask how the report presented today and provided evidence can be useful for that purpose. And are there any particular decisions that are tackled or kept in mind when you listen to that report? Thank you. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. First of all, I'm very thankful for the opportunity to participate in this event with such distinguished guests. At National Security and Defense Council apparatus, we were very impressed by the methodology and results of the report, because currently, as you may know, in Ukraine, we are working on ecological security strategy, which is integral part of the national security strategy. We now also are working on a software which is called SOTA, which stands for National Security Monitoring System. And in the core of these systems, we have GIS, so we are very interested to integrate data sets, all pollutants that were analyzed in this research as layers on our map for the future investigation and future analysis. And also, we would like to continue cooperation because we think that it's important not only to have one-time analysis actions, but to make it larger scale, full-scale monitoring of air quality. And data from Earth observation is an interesting alternative source from official statistics. And we also are trying to integrate satellite data into other sectors of ecological security, including deforestation, fires, and it will be of great value for us to integrate data of this report. And at the same time, it will be of great value for us to start cooperation with all interested parties to make, as I mentioned, full-scale air quality monitoring in Ukraine, as well to inform higher standing officials to make better data-driven decisions, but also to inform wider public on what do we have in this realm. I also would like to admit that Earth observation data gives us transparency and it influences how different actors behave. And so it might also influence better quality of official statistics. As well, it has anti-corruption effect. In general, we would be very interesting to cooperate with the European Space Agency, and we can coordinate process between different governmental institutions in Ukraine to make ecological security monitoring better than it's now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your remarks, Mr. Dobish. Surely civil society is a partner and a valuable player actually in the field of monitoring the environment and could serve as a watchdog for public interest in that sense. Our next panelist is Dmytro Grabovets, who is a project manager and mentor at Your Air Test, Ukraine. Mr. Grabovets, the present report contains interesting insights that are relevant to policymakers, but as a representative of civil society who's actively involved in monitoring environmental aspects, where do you see the major gaps and opportunities in using Earth observation data for development? You have the floor, sir. 3 minutes.
Добрий день, шановний прем'єр-міністр, поважні учасники.
Good afternoon, dear Prime Minister, distinguished guests and colleagues. We are working on Your Air Test project. This is the air quality monitoring project. The air quality is the decisive factor for the longevity and our life expectancy. And when we become aware of that, that changes our mindset. But yet industrial enterprises continue polluting our air and other natural resources. And due to that, more than 50,000 Ukrainian citizens die annually. And of course, it seems obvious. On one hand, we have the air. On the other hand, we have the polluters. And the only thing we need to do is just to stop polluters from polluting, or we could create the conditions under which the polluters could continue their operations, but with the reduction of their emissions of the pollutants. But the more we work on that, the more complexities we see to the situation. There are natural pollutants as well. There are exhaust gases from transportation. There are wildfires, the issues of radiation. All that is a terrible mix that results in horrible results. And if we multiply that by COVID-19, the problem gets even bigger. If we do not solve the issue, we'll have more deaths per year. But if we solve it in the wrong way, the outcomes might be unpredictable. We see a few possible solutions to the problem. We would like to create the mathematical model that will give us the answer to the question, what are the biggest pollutants in terms of the percentage? So the pollution from the wildfires, pollution from the transportation. We want to have the percentage of all of these polluting factors, and then we will see what is the most burning issue to be of the highest priority for solving. And we are considering 6 pollutants: PM 2.5, PM10, SO2, NO2, CO. We are creating SO2. We are creating the ecosystem of the mobile app and website. We have our sensors, and we are using mathematic modeling. Of course, we understand that we have a lot of work ahead of us, and we will need your helping hand. We would like to create high-quality tool for Ukrainians, for citizens who want to change something in their lives. And we will need your support with that effort so that we could change the world for the sake of all of us. Thank you.
I'm sure a joint effort. Thank you, Mr. Grabovets. I'm sure a joint effort of all the players of your in the Ukrainian society will help you produce this tool that you're speaking of. We are basically out of time. I want to thank all the panelists for their comprehensive and very swift inputs and comments during this session. I would like to greet Mr. Christian Retscher and Mr. Christoph Albrecht for being here, for being ready to intervene. Unfortunately, we are basically out of time. Hi, and thank you for being with us. We have one question that we've collected from the public. And that's a question related to possible errors in the measurement tool that was used for the space data. And I saw the chat, the discussion in the chat, that this question is best addressed by the authors of the study. So perhaps Mr. Roman Bochovitz could look at it briefly and join us for a discussion. Mr. Roman Bochovitz, if you're still there.
Yes,
have you seen the discussion? The question is, what is the possible error of air pollution measurements in the available data? If you could be as brief as 1 minute, I would appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So in general, it's very difficult to evaluate the errors compared to the measurements that are usually done on the ground, because the nature of the satellite observation is physically very different. We observe the values in the atmospheric column and in several kilometers range. So you can't actually compare it to the measurement that is next to the road or industrial polluter. And it has even different units. So it's difficult to measure it, and we consider it as another source of data to make a proxy for the ground measurements.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And actually, we decided to take a couple of more minutes. I think Zoom will allow us that. Mr. Retscher, I'd like to go back to you if possible. Christian Retscher, atmosphere scientist at ESA, who has been with us and who I greeted before. I have a question for you, sir. What are Europe's plan and future capabilities for monitoring air quality from space? What are their potential benefits and limitations to current satellites? Perhaps other data sources that could contribute to air quality monitoring, in addition to Copernicus Sentinels, the satellites used for collecting the data that we've seen in the report today. So you have about 2 minutes to answer a rocket science question. Sorry for ending this event in this quite complex way. You have the floor, sir.
Okay, thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can, sir. We can.
Hello? Okay, I hope you can hear me. Well, thanks for having me here on this panel, and thanks for that question. Well, I mean, we have been listening at the presentations on Sentinel-5P, which is our current best capability of measuring air pollution from space. But European Space Agency, together with its partners, EUMETSAT, is of course bringing more capabilities in space, of which the most prominent and the closest in time are Sentinel-5. There'll be a number of satellites on Sentinel-5, instrument Sentinel-5, and there will be Sentinel-4, and there will also be the so-called CO2 monitoring mission, which also has a capability of measuring specifically nitrogen dioxide. This will be a higher resolution than we have seen so far. So Sentinel-5 and Sentinel-4 will have a quite similar resolution, spatial resolution as we've seen with Sentinel-5P, but the CO2 monitoring mission is of higher resolution on an hourly basis, provide air pollution measurements from space. I think with that, I go back to you. Thanks again.
Thank you. Very interesting. So basically, a live data. If it's updated every year, that's very valuable. We can track things in real time. That's amazing. Thank you.
Yes. Should I say something more on that? Do I have a couple more seconds?
A couple of more seconds, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, it is hourly resolution. So the Sentinel-4 will be flying in geo orbit, so geostationary orbit, which is typically used for metrology, and that's already also where this whole instrument is being motivated by. No, so it scans hourly the disk. It has, of course, that one limitation that you don't see other areas of the globe. No, so it will be looking at Africa and at Europe, but of course you cannot see air pollution, for instance, over Asia or over America. What you can obviously do with Sentinel-5P and Sentinel-5. So this is it comes with a plus, and there's also this limitation. But to very briefly add to that, our American partners and Asian partners are building similar platforms that will look at their side of the globe. So in a global sense, you know, we're very well set for the future.
Global plans for the European Space Agency. Best of luck with that, and thank you very much for your input. Dear panelists, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of our event. Thank you very much for your very swift, active inputs. I would like to thank all the panelists, all of the speakers who shared their viewpoints, their speeches, the presentation during the first part of the event, and for sharing their thoughts in how Earth observation data could be used to benefit government decision-making, environmental policy, healthcare policy. We spoke about how those aspects could advance the achievement of sustainable development goals and the overall progress of our countries, which ultimately translates into concrete improvements and the well-being of our regular people here in Moldova, in Ukraine, in the region at large, and as we just ended on a global note, in the world at large. Thank you very much for your active participation. I was honored to be part of this. Here we end the live streaming. You will be able to find the recording of this event on YouTube, on the channels of UNDP Moldova and UNDP Ukraine, as well as on the Facebook pages of UNDP Europe, NCIS, UNDP Ukraine, and UNDP Moldova. Have a nice day ahead. Goodbye.